Hello and thank you for watching. My name is Alexandra, and today we're going to talk about Hellblade and using game mechanics as metaphor. Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, tells the story of a warrior on a quest to revive her dead fiancé, all while struggling to manage her own mental trauma. In order to capture Senua's mental state, the game uses specific mechanics and scenario design to ground the player in her headspace. By subtly tweaking level design or crafting intense scenarios, Hellblade recreates sensations like altered perception or anxiety and uses its game mechanics as metaphor for mental illness. Every area of the game corresponds to a different god that Senua must face on her journey to revive her lover, Dillion. The first is the realm of Valravn, god of illusion. To simulate sensations and feelings such as derealization or mental degradation, this area is full of gates that change and alter the environment as Senua passes through them. Walls crumble and ladders appear depending on which way you're walking through the arch and what perspective you're looking at. Navigation through this area can be kind of tricky, and tracking back and forth until a path appears gives the sensation of using ritual or compulsion in order to deal with mounting frustration. It can be really confusing to look for the right gate to pass through. And because of this, the level design creates the same feelings in the player as what Senua might be feeling in that very moment. This is contrasted with the realm of Surt, the fire giant. Here things are a lot more intense. If Valravn's realm was designed to simulate confusion, this area is focused on anxiety or flat-out panic. Senua runs from illusory fire that constricts potential pathways and forces the player to run forward in order to avoid dying. Broadly, these sequences can be read as panic attacks. Smoke imagery evokes the idea of difficulty breathing, while the encroaching fire simulates just how hard it is to prevent an episode once it starts. Speaking from my own personal experience, once you feel a panic attack coming, it can be really hard to outrun that. While Hellblade does have combat, much of this segment is spent running, as it's far too early for Senua to push back against her fears. Woven into the fabric of the level design are smaller touches meant to complicate the player's relationship to the game. Throughout the game, Senua is dogged by a chorus of voices that alternatively mock her and encourage her. The audio design for these voices is binaural. It slips back and forth in a player's headphones from left to right, or all over the place on somebody's monitor. These voices often annoy more than they adequately simulate sensations of mania or schizophrenia, but their intrusive presence creates a sense of mounting agitation. Additionally, and here's the big thing that most people know about, the game claims that if Senua dies enough, Curse will crawl up her arm and eventually kill her permanently and erase your save data. By all accounts, this appears to be a lie on the part of the developer. I can't find anybody who's actually had their save data deleted, but this added pressure is another emotion that players need to manage and accept. Acceptance is the key in Hellblade. It becomes clear that much of Senua's condition is inherited from her mother and compounded by abuse from her zealous father. To simulate the process of healing and integration, a dark sequence plunges Senua into a realm where she needs to work through that darkness. The screen is nearly pitch black, and players need to turn Senua around and move forward only when their controller is vibrating. There's dangerous monsters to sneak by, and you can only really make progress if you listen to the encouraging voice of Dillion. Leaving this realm leads to more combat-focused sequences. Having navigated the darkness, Senua is finally ready to fight back. Narratively, this can seem a little reductive. Boiling down mental illness to a Campbellian hero's journey fails to provide the nuance required to say anything conclusive about mental health. Is the rot on Senua's arm a representation of her growing self-doubt? Is it a bruise left by her abusive father? Is it a literal mark of shame from the gods? Well, it ends up being all of these things because Hellblade shies away from anything too definitive. In a lot of ways, that's disappointing. Hellblade doesn't necessarily have much to say about mental health, but the mechanics do succeed in emulating emotional states. Hellblade, when you get down to it, is actually just a mood piece. Confusion, panic, depression, players will experience all of these things and more. In the final moments of the game, Senua must stop fighting, or else the player is stuck in a combat sequence against infinitely spawning enemies. Senua learns to integrate her pain and hurt, accepting it as an essential part of herself. It's another metaphor for their mechanics, learning to put down the sword and drop the controller and walk away from the demons. Hellblade's message isn't radical. The most difficult battles are fought in the mind, is something that the game is very fond of saying. And thanks to some smart design, we get to feel a small portion of that struggle.